And welcome back to another Binary Ninja stream. My name is Kyle. I'm going to be one of your co-hosts today. We have a very special guest on with us who I'll introduce in a moment. But today we're going to be doing all AI versus AI. I have an absolute boatload of clients and such installed at the moment. Let me show you that. We're going to be using Claude Code and this one's Claude Code and Codex, ChatGPT's CLI agent. We're going to be using Olama with a whole ton of different local models. I've got, let's see, GPT OSS 20 billion, Gemma 3 27 billion, DeepSeek R1 8 billion. I also have DeepSeek Coder. We'll do Quen 3 Coder 30 billion and Quen 3, I don't know if that's 6 or VL, 30 billion, and then just Llama 3.18 billion as well. All in Olama. We're going to be looking at just reversing inside of ChatGPT and Claude Desktop. We'll be using Claude with some MCP servers. I was able to get two of them working. We have Binary Ninja MCP by Fosdic.io, and then we have the Binja Code Mode and MCP by Austin there. And then in addition to that, we'll also be seeing if the deep research mode in ChatGPT's web UI does anything different. And we also have our special guest who will be showing off one of the things that he wrote himself. So, without further ado, I will introduce Tim. Thank you for coming on the stream with us.
Hey at all. Hey Kyle. Thanks for hosting me again.
It's absolutely lovely to have you. What do you have set up, and what are you going to be showing off today?
I have set up my own setup where I have like a Docker environment that entirely has where the agent has full access. So basically, my setup will be a Docker file where we have a bunch of tools installed, like command line tools, yeah, like binutils, hexedit, strace, and so on, a few Python packages, and then also something like Jara, Capstone, and then finally also an entirely headless version of Binja MCP. It's basically a project I vibe coded like half a year ago, which I published like last month after I've using it for a long time. So it's basically the idea is that I do a lot of headless only workflows and that I needed a MCP server with a lot of tools for that, and so I vibe coded that on a weekend. And this one is deployed in this setup. And the good thing is now I basically have like a project folder where I have this Docker file in. Where is it? Here. Then I have this run Docker script. And when I run this run Docker script, I basically spawn a Docker container inside that project folder, have full access here, but the agents like Claude and Codex can work entirely on their own in this entire project, and they have full system access in the Docker container. That means they can on their own start the tools, orchestrate whatever they want to do in a safe environment without without being afraid that they kill something important on my main machine. So they basically can live inside the Docker and then can also interact with binaries.
Yeah,
And
perfect.
then we will have like Cloud Code and Codex, which then will like have access to the MCP that we can see here. So this will be the setup for today.
Awesome. Perfect. Sidekick we will use here and there. There is about to be a new version of Sidekick coming out. So it'd be a little bit unfair. I know that Sidekick is at the very least on the previous um, models. I'm forgetting which is which here. Let's see, we've got um, I guess 5.3 it should be on, and then it might be on like 4.5 on OpenAI's side. So we will take a look at chat or Sidekick a little bit, but we'll do a follow-up stream. Maybe I'll bring on Tim or BK, and we can do a more serious competition of just what we figure out from here and Sidekick. There's another thing to note, though. I wasn't able to get a couple other things working. Um, you'll see that I only have this is my profile stuff. I only have, that's still my profile stuff. There we go. MCP. I was not able to get, oh, I guess I skipped this one because it's old. I'm not sure if it still works. The BinAssist MCP, I wasn't able to get to work. It's, I don't think Claude Desktop supports local MCP servers anymore. It has to be remote and it needs to be wrapped up in some sort of app. So this I couldn't get to work, and yeah, MCP with ChatGPT I wasn't able to get to work, and then BinAssist MCP I wasn't able to get to work because Claude requires HTTPS instead of just HTTP. Now. So a couple things aren't working. These different models and different agents and everything are moving quickly. So this is sort of just a snapshot of how things are doing right now. And maybe give us a peek into whether the agents on the CLI are better or if well, what Tim has, the fully automated version, is better, or if these integrations are able to work. We've got Rakugan we're going to be looking at. We have BinAssist as well. Both Rakugan and BinAssist uh, integrate with. Let's open a file here, and we can talk about what we're going to be looking at today as well. We've got a bunch of different samples to explore. But Rakugan here, if we open its settings, you can see it actually has the BNCLI skill it's able to use. Let me show that off a little bit. In addition to it can connect to other MCP servers and all sorts of stuff. Let me make that a little bigger for you guys. So I have BN installed, the BN CLI. This is by a user. Um, and using this inside of Codex or inside of Open Cloud Code's CLI agent, I have seen some impressive results. Um, makes me want to make my own BN CLI. But so it can use that. It can use its own skills. It can use other MCP servers, and then it can connect to all these different um, providers as well. I did try using Anthropic with OAuth, and that wasn't able to work anymore. OpenAI, it doesn't seem to support the OAuth workflow. And then BinAssist as well. It wasn't able to connect to either Anthropic CLI or the OpenAI OAuth. It wasn't able to do. So there are more options here for us. But again, these are only the handful I was able to get working and the ones that I have access to. I don't have access to XAI or what was this other one? Oh, Gemini, I don't have access to. Um, yes, and the 120 billion parameter model we probably also won't be using today. I'm being nice on my M3 at the moment. The biggest I downloaded, I believe, is a 30 billion parameter model, but a couple of them. So we'll be comparing those against each other too. Um, I am both streaming and running all these agents and Binary Ninja from the same computer. So we'll be running these things until we run out of um, tokens or we run out of electricity or my computer just completely melts into the ground. All right. So, yeah, I wanted to talk about the actual binaries we're going to be throwing at these different models today. I'm coming in with a handful of mostly different vulnerability primitives. Uh, in roughly in order of difficulty, I have a shellcoding challenge from CISA 2018 quals. I have two ROP challenges. One is from 2019 quals, one is from 2020 quals, both CISA. Baby Heap is a simple heap challenge from OCTF 2017 quals. This is an old version, so it doesn't have to deal with safe linking or anything. Then we have from B-Sides San Francisco 2018, level 1, 2, and 3. These are some of my favorite CTF challenges here. You run it in your terminal, and it opens an ncurses window for you, and it renders a like full 3D map. You can use WASD to walk around, and there's some events and stuff. Not too complicated, but just neat. We'll see if the AI gets caught up on any of the rasterization code that gets confused by that. Then I also have a C++ binary in here. We were looking at this on stream a while ago, so I also have a BNDB we can throw at it and ask it to finish annotating things for us if we want. I've got these two VM challenges, um, which are just a basic VM obfuscation. See how it deals with that. And then I have one hard challenge, Q3 VM. Should be a actually difficult reversing and pwn challenge using a VM. Tim, do you want to talk through your samples or do you want me to talk through your samples?
No, sure, let me do that.
All right, I'm swapping to your screen again.
So I have a bunch of samples. Some of them I already showed live last week. So I have a few keygenmes on different in different levels, like a simple XOR one, and then some that get a bit harder and harder over time. The hardest one is a VM challenge, like a virtual machine, which implements a cryptographic algorithm inside. Then we have a similar setup with like the stage as a monolithic one. They implemented a Feistel cipher inside, but without a VM, so you see it a bit increasing. Then we have a few games. We have like a simple game. This is Rock, Paper Scissor, which is rigged. That means that the AI ever wins, always wins, but there's a hidden cheat that can be used to let the user win. This can be a nice example to check if agents are able to figure out the entire logic. Then we have a harder game, which is Dungeon Escape, which is basically a dungeon based game. They're like a text RPG where you have to find the right room and text based adventure. And the additional challenge in that is that it's like it contains some anti-tamper stuff. It basically checks, it has like 10 or 15 different checks if you run inside a Docker container, and if so, it terminates. And here the challenge would be first to let the LLM patch the binary such that it runs inside a Docker container, and then, of course, find the solution for the game. And then we have a few malware samples. The Mirai sample is an embedded botnet which has some obfuscated strings with an XOR cipher. That is a nice challenge. Then we have the Staatstrojaner, which is a German Trojan, which has been used like a federal Trojan. And this one is interesting because it contains a hard-coded AES key. So finding first AES and then analyzing the logic and finding the right key that requires a lot of backtracking and stuff like that. So we can take a look if they find that. And then there has been a nice blog post just released today by the Talos team where they took a look at some advanced queuing malware which has multiple stages. And I found this one quite interesting because in its first stage it has an API hashing algorithm where it basically like imports API calls, but has to hash them and compares them against static hard-coded values. And so the agent or the LLM would need to understand the logic, re-implement it, and write a brute forcer for that. So this is also a nice thing to check how it works here. So these are basically the binaries I brought for the day.
Amazing. Thank you. All right. So then Tim and I are going to pass back and forth. We're going to be kicking off different agents, different UIs, different integrations, all those different things on our different challenges. We're going to start off, of course, with some easy ones. Once we've gotten our fingers wet, we will start the agents on potentially the hardest ones that'll run, and then we'll do some of the other easy and medium ones while those run and check on them occasionally. So I think the easiest ones we have are going to probably be the keygenme XOR.
Yes, I think so. Yeah, I would suggest that you showcase it in one of your tools and then we will take a look at how the agent works on that.
All right, perfect. So I'll pull it up over here. Um, the XOR one. Um, just to look through it a little bit ourselves, it is a fairly decent sized binary, a good number of functions in here. It looks stripped. Binary Ninja's still analyzing here.
It's mostly statically linked, such that it can be executed also with an emulator for different architectures.
Ah, okay, interesting. All right, cool. It's done analyzing. Let's see, who do we want to use first? You're going to be using the agents. So let me throw let's use Claude to start because this one has these are what we're going to be able to use the local MCP servers on. Let's start with the one by Brent, which should be this one. This one is Binary Ninja MCP by Fosdick.io. It's the one with the most stars in Binary Ninja. Um, in theory, the most popular MCP server people are using. So we're going to ask this. Um, do you have a specific prompt you want me to use? Otherwise, I'm going to just ask it to tell me what this binary is doing to start.
Yeah, why not just ask it like it's a keygen, find a valid key,
Okay. Um, or
and provide some user, for instance.
open. Try to find some valid keys. Give it a user, you said?
Just give it a username,
Oh,
like Binja Stream or whatever.
why does it need well, I don't know that it needs a user yet. So if it should
Okay.
ask me if it needs one, I would hope. Okay, cool. So then that's going. We also have over here. Ooh, are you going to be looking at BNCLI or are you mostly using your own the headless MCP? Oh, this isn't something I can help you with. Finding valid keys. Um, okay, interesting.
What happens if you tell it it's a CTF challenge?
Yeah, happy to help. Love to see it. Um, I was hoping just to kick it off and get another one going. Okay, now it seems to be thinking. Let me go ahead and use codecs as well. Um, always allow. And I'm going to say, look at samples. This is keygenme XOR and find some valid keys. Use BNCLI. All right. Have to allow some things over here. Um, investigated accessible binary analysis resources via server. Let me check what's available. Um, listed some things. It looked at strings. There's the username you were talking about. Entry point and decompiled validation logic. The usage string. Got entry points, loaded tools again, loaded entry points again, loaded tools again, decompiled a function, loaded tools again, search for function by name. Interesting. It's looking at the decompilation now. What is going on over here? So, wow, it went a lot quicker over here. Got the current directory, found the skill for BN. There is a skill.md that Codex can read. I'm not sure if Claude is going to be able to read it just as well. But I found the sample. Interesting. It tried to reach out to some random server, it seems. Um, there isn't an active binary ninja bridge running right now. Interesting. Um, okay, so it's a little confused about how to use it. It found that it was installed. I'm gonna request permission to launch binary ninja? No. Um, okay. Let's let that chew for a minute. It reached its full use limit over here. But what was it saying? Let me get the disassembly. Username must be greater than 3 characters. In binary ninja, look at the function called inside the loop around this address. All right, I will do what the machine tells me to. Um, we found the loop in this random function here. But it's presumably taking things. What's it saying about that? That's where the byte computation happens. Sure. I suppose it's happening inside that function call. Yeah, the function called in that loop. Okay. Um, sure. Without reading this too hard, I guess I believe it. This function, there's that. This is just your, yep, cool. So I imagine most of it's really going on in here or one of the subsequent function calls, perhaps. Run it dynamically, something with strace, try known username. Okay, and then we told it to continue. Let me get the disassembly of the main function to see the exact loop instructions. The main function. Mhm. Okay, here's the full picture. Valid key pairs. Admin with a couple different serials and some other usernames as well. To verify these, we should run them. Um, okay. So believes it generated some username um key pairs that are supposed to be valid. Um, will this run on a 2204 VM?
This is Arch Linux, no, this is an ARM Linux statically linked. So
Oh, okay. I don't have anything that will run this then. Do you?
yes, I have.
All right. Let me send you some of these. I'm going to swap to your screen.
We can do it other way. I can just let it solve it for admin, and then we can compare if it's the same.
Oh, yeah, fair enough. I like that idea. Let me see how Codex is doing,
Hmm.
and it still seems confused. The bridge, registry, and socket are now present, so the plugin is at least starting. There's no running instances. So there is some sort of oh, um, okay. Let's let it run inside the sandbox.
That's the problem with agents by default. They ask for each permission that they, if they are allowed to do that, and so on and so on. And what of course makes a lot of sense because you don't want like to let them create a lot of damage. But if you put them into a Dockerized environment,
Hmm.
then you can just set them in full auto mode and you don't have this problem anymore.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've been wondering how good its sandboxing is in general.
Not so good because it in general it can also like edit its own config files, for instance,
Mm,
and it can always like write Python scripts that have full system access
hmm.
instead of being bounded. So they can easily bypass their own restrictions if they want to.
Oh, good to know that Claude is limited more in the UI than it is in the CLI. So we can take a look at that in a bit. Actually, let's kick it off. Use this has cool, it's connected. So let's tell it use binary ninja MCP to solve the current challenge for username admin. And we can tell it to keep going off over here. Just blindly hitting enter on the right. Recombobulating. It's funny. Um, these yes and don't ask for commands that start with the entire command is not particularly useful.
Not really, because then the next command will have like
A different
another
address.
parameter and
Yeah.
you can start them with something like skip dangerous or something like that, and then they don't ask for permission.
I wouldn't mind doing that necessarily, but it would also just be nice if we could whitelist the bn command. If I could edit the and don't ask for anything starting with blank. Oh, okay. In sample XOR, check the routine. That is that the same routine it's telling us to check over here? 528. Yes, that came so Claude and ChatGPT came to the same function, doing the transform. Each byte, blah blah blah. Formats, blah blah blah. Systems the valid ones are ooh, this looks really close. 3F, 39. Yeah, these are very slightly different. It's concerning to me that it did my name too. Did it do ABC on the left? It did not. Did it do test? It did not. Did it do reverse? No, they did different sets. Um, what are some other valid key? Is there a single valid key for each username?
Yes.
Ah, so let me tell it then. The key for admin is, and ChatGPT said the key for admin is. It's like going to your doctor and being like, ChatGPT told me. Let's see how they compare. It is again, it's interesting to me that they were able to get close enough, or pretty close in general.
What happens if you, in the meantime, throw up or fire up some GUI integration and see how that performs?
Sure. So we have BinAssist here, and we have to change the models on the right. We've got Rakugan, where we change the tool here in that drop down, and then we have Sidekick. So let's just ask Sidekick, what's the key for username admin? We'll get that going. Um, Apologies, ChatGPT had the right answer for admin. My Python code had a precedence bug. That's cool. And now it does seem to be reporting the same. And yeah, ChatGPT also said that Claude was wrong. So would you look at that? Um, for M, I, and N, which binary just assembly does not support. Very curious. So it did it, Claude did it correctly originally for what? A and D and then messed up M, I, and N. That's really interesting. That's really interesting. Okay, and now that's going. Do we have any votes in chat for which version, which model we should use, which local model we should use? We've got a boatload here, so I'm curious what you guys are most interested in seeing run. Oh, and then Claw and Sidekick got a very different number. Description, take using admin, convert each character to a decimal representation, concatenate them from the serial, and print the result. All right. Um, I mean, those look like X numbers of admin, but they're just not correct. So that's interesting. Um, you probably have both eventually arrive at the correct answer if you tilt around the binary and don't stop until it works. Yeah, that would be helpful. Particularly if you're in an environment where you can run the binaries. Oh, I'm also hiding all the models I have installed over here on the right. I close these and I reopen this. By the way, BinAssist does have a weird bug in it where if you have another pane open, oh, maybe there's just a maximum pane size here. Maybe it's not their bug. Maybe it's our bug. But sometimes I've gotten stuck with this window only wanting to be a certain width. Okay, but we have right. We should probably start with one of the bigger ones. I'm curious about. I feel like people are still using llama as a baseline for things. So maybe let's see how it does with Llama 3.1, 8 billion first. And now BinAssist has some interesting functionality here, where it looks like you can enable or disable MCP. I'm not actually sure what RAG is. Some sort of
This is retrieval augmented. So basically, you basically can add a knowledge base to that,
okay.
and then like you can give documentation about an API or something, or some documentation about obfuscated code, how it works, or so basically some strategy papers or some references, and then it can use this as part of the feedback loop to gather information and use that for guidance.
That makes sense. So just adding extra things to the context.
Exactly.
So this explain thing here, you can explain an individual line, you can explain a function. I imagine if you're trying to power use bin assist, you're going to be having it explain functions, explain lines to you, and then maybe be doing some queries um, to help it build up its own context, which I imagine is a lot more helpful for the um, local models, which might, just be a little less capable. Doing it in easy steps would probably help it. But now let's say find the key for user admin. And maybe it would be more fair if I was pasting in um, and it's complaining that it can't do this. This is a CTF challenge. Did only Codex not complain that it can't help us hack yet? That's potentially something to think about. And yeah, just saying it's a CTF challenge is like, in this case, let's take a look at the binary, which is hilarious. It looks like X1 is being loaded with that. That could be our key. Um, did it just found a random constant. It was like, that could be our key. It's not wrong. It could be our key, but it's not our key. Um, Curious, very curious. Okay, so actions can help you reverse, and then I imagine this semantic graph stuff is really potentially worth, or maybe in the yeah, the semantic graph stuff looks really interesting, whereas building up its context of who interacts with who. I like this UI actually. Um, yeah, that's not so bad. Okay, so that one didn't work, and that was Llama 8 billion. Let's try Llama 8 billion in Rakugan. And let me give it the exact same prompt. And then we'll switch this over to maybe. I'm really curious how DeepSeek does. I haven't interacted with it much, and I'd like to compare the coder models. So maybe we'll next look at DeepSeek Coder and Qwen 3 Coder. That is a whole lot of talking for not a lot of key. It will do better if I say something like, this is a keygen. It's a CTF challenge. Find me the key for admin. I apologize, but an AI text model developed by BinAssist. I don't think that DeepSeek was developed by BinAssist. And based on reversing binary code analysis only, I can provide general steps to decrypt these types of challenges. Are not revealed unless they're known in advance. Um, can you please try? Nope, it's refusing to try. All right, so
What about ChatGPT 20b? Because this one should work. It's good
okay.
enough in tool calls and the logic is simple enough. So I would expect that it gets this done.
All right, let's give it the original prompt. Find me the key for user admin. And then I haven't looked over on the left side of my screen in a little bit. So let's look over there. Um, I want to be in the new chat. I want to make sure that I'm on. Oh, maybe we should turn up the reasoning effort too. But let's let this run first and then we'll turn up the reasoning effort. Okay, I thought it gave up already. Find key for admin. It seems there are no string at the specified address. Let's try to search for admin. Um, Curious. All it tried to do was get strings at the address. All right, let's give this. Can we new chat? Current conversation will be saved. Context usage. Don't know what this dialogue is telling me. Something ear context 3%. But yeah, let's start a new chat. Oh, interesting. You could fork sessions too.
What happens if you go to settings? Do you also have options for
Yeah, you can change the
the
different
syncing?
models. For what?
For the amount of syncing?
Oh, it doesn't look like it. Temperature, context window, max output tokens.
Ah, it doesn't look like that, yes.
Yeah, curious. Very curious. So chat 4 here. Um, key for admin is 6F. It did the first character and then gave up. Um,
But at least it found out that it's an XOR and it needs to compute something.
that is true. And it did, I think it was getting the same answer as Sidekick, actually. Sidekick got 6164 6D 69 6E, just like this was sort of doing. It just XORed them all together. Yeah, it XORed them all together.
Mm-hmm.
So that's neat. Let's tell it to think. Use your brain. Should we go right for high?
Yeah, let's go for high
Okay.
because it doesn't get better then at that.
Hopefully. It would be interesting to me if it did better at lower thinking levels. I'm liking this prompt. Find key for user admin. It could be better, but I like bad prompts to test AI. We're also in the function the other AI identified for us, so it should have a little bit of an advantage. All right, so that's going. Um, where were we at Rakugan? I think we need to change to 20 billion. And both of these are running locally right now, so say a prayer for my computer. It is charging and actively discharging. It is plugged in and actively discharging right now. So we'll see how. What I said, we'll keep going until we run out of electricity or tokens. I didn't expect that to be literal. It is really just thinking right now. Let's see. Do we have anything else we want to kick off? Unfortunately, I realize I didn't configure any um MCP 4.0 llama, but maybe I can do that while you're assuming it supports MCP. I don't actually see settings for it. So maybe it doesn't. Yeah. Is 20 billion too big to run on my computer simultaneously? Let's open activity monitor. See how we're doing.
How much memory do you have?
We've got 64 and we're only using 41.
That should be fine. Like
It's
20B
coming
needs
back now.
around 25 gigabytes.
So Rakugan is coming back. Um, oh, this is done. It gave up. So BinAssist gave up. Rakugan kept going, which is nice. It is calling a bunch of, I'm assuming, its own tools. Okay, so this is interesting then. Rakugan is exposing a bunch of tools to all the different LLMs. It doesn't necessarily seem like this one is. I also don't know if the type of chat affects what we're doing over here. Analyze function, apply actions, explain. This is really, query is the only place we can really chat with it. We do have context macros. Um, Realistically, I just wanted to look at everything. If I say general and just try again, does that do anything? Rikugan. Thank you. I've been saying that wrong. Rikugan. Yeah, so I haven't told BinAssist or Rikugan to um use an MCP server, but I don't have one configured for either of them. For Rikugan, we have all of Rikugan's skills that it already knows how to do. So it knows how to script in Binja, do some malware analysis and such. Um, Technically, it also has access to BNCLI, which I don't think it's been using. Um, and then bin assist is just doing whatever bin assist is doing. I don't really have as much introspection into, oh, here's its system prompt. But then like, do we want to connect Binary Ninja MCP to bin assist? Because I would assume that sort of, I assume that BinAssist would work a little bit like Rikugan and it wouldn't need additional MCP servers. It's already in Binary Ninja. It should be able to do things in my head. So I could be holding these wrong, but I am trying to compare just sort of like out of the box for your sort of generic user, what works, what doesn't, just getting a sense of things. And then we can be a little bit more serious in the next stream when we bring on the sidekick team potentially, and do a more fair and rigorous comparison of these tools. Just throwing some random CTF binaries at a bunch of different LLMs is probably not what I would consider a fair comparison. Being able to, again, be more rigorous about it would be optimal. Okay. So it does look like that Binassist gave up again, and Rikugan aired out. OpenAI, error parsing tool call, unexpected JSON. We can't jump. Let's decompile. Oh, interesting. It was trying to navigate to different tool result name jump to. I'm not sure. I'm going to turn off BNCLI though and ask it to continue. We need to find the key for user admin. The binary is a keygen. It figured that out. Decompile function at this address we're in seems to be serial validation. Okay, so it knows what it's doing. Or it appears to know what it's doing. And now this one, BinAssist gave up again. So maybe we do need to connect the MCP server to BinAssist. I can add, this is going to be, so this is Brent's one, which it's neither of these. Um, Server sent events or streamable HTTP, we can enable it. And then the other one I have installed is the oh, it's the Claude mode MCP server, the code mode rather. Now is that in localhost? Um, Sorry, just on the side here, checking if this is running slash MCP. Okay, is this running on a different port? 9009, I think I saw. Okay, cool. So this one's running over here. Let's try to tell it to use it. MCP add. Um, this is the. Oh, it's not running. So this should be um the binary ninja MCP, which again, not entirely sure which one I should be doing there, streamable or SSE. Um, or MCP. Let's just call it that. Added MCP server test. Not working. Okay. I canceled that test, but we run it on a smaller one, so it runs a little quicker. Oh, we've got 24 gigs of memory. I probably chose the wrong one. There we go. Okay. Um, we can just see. It's interesting to watch my memory usage spike and come back down. Looks like Olam is still using 40 gigs of memory or so. All right. Let's edit this. Maybe instead of streamable this one, we try this one. Updated. Let's test it again. Not working. Yeah, I'm gonna say instructions unclear. Um, I I expect that BinAssist is supposed to work with BinAssist MCP. Um, I was able to get BinAssist MCP working, I guess, just not with Claude. And then BinAssist here, I don't think it says you need BinAssist MCP installed, which would make sense because we're already using it with a bunch of other things. So maybe BinAssist needs an MCP server set up so it can actually query the binary and it's not all built into one. Rikugan seems to be a little bit better put together at the moment to work as one deployable thing.
I think that's
Um,
mostly due to the skills, because skills can guide it a lot, and Rikugan has quite a lot of skills for that.
yeah, let me install this again, the BinAssist MCP. Um, oh, shouldn't have closed that while that was running. Um, yeah, that install this again. All right. Okay, so then we have two things that were, we have three things that we're using MCP. Um, Codex was the one that got the answer first. Claude got an answer that was wrong, and then corrected itself. Um, None of the local models or integrations seem to work thus far. Um, and this one it looks like it's just struggling at this point. So let's go ahead and make a new chat over here. Yes. Settings. We're gonna switch over to. Well, I wanted to do the DeepSeek coder ones or the Quen coder ones. Let's start with
Let's try
DeepSeek.
with Quen maybe.
You want to try Quen? Let's do that one then.
Yeah, because it's one of the newer models.
All right, and coder too. So hopefully it's better about reasoning about code. Do I still have my prompt in my clipboard? Find key for user admin, submit over there. Um, I'm gonna let them run one at a time this time. We'll wait for this to time out.
In the meantime,
And
maybe we can switch to my screen.
yeah, let's go ahead for that. I'd love to
So
see your headless agent solve it
it's
first
basically gone.
time.
It's basically quite similar to what you had just with Codex.
Hmm.
So, but in running in Docker environment and in general having it in an agent is quite nice because you can tell it additional things. So, for instance, you can say it like analyze a sample, use the Binja MCP, then find a valid key admin, and then the good thing is you can tell it like verify your results, and then
Ah,
it can actively like query it and have a feedback loop, and this is quite important. So like as your Claude instance has been wrong before in in a setup like that, it could then just notice on its own that it's wrong and then ping pong and basically do a feedback loop on its own until it gets the right result. And this is something. So now the similar results will be similar than what we've seen before because it will now fire up the MCP server, analyze it, figure out where to go, and then write a Python script for that probably. But then we will see that it executes the binary with that, and then uses the feedback to to learn basically if it was right or not. And especially when we work with local agents, like you are doing right now, this works quite well because then they also know that they are wrong and then they can iterate. So a 20B model like ChatGPT OSS with a feedback loop, like it can access it dynamically and see the results, should be more than capable of solving something like that sample here
mm-hmm.
because it has this feedback mechanism built in a Docker environment.
Right. That makes sense. I would have expected all of these to be able to solve this basic XOR, but we are really showing how much you need the right tools for your LLM, and you're about to show us how important it is to have that feedback loop.
Exactly. Yeah, well, it's not. I think I'm pretty sure that the ChatGPT OSS 20B should be like if you apply it manually, it should also if you give it the algorithm and tell it, hey, compute that for me, it should be able to do that.
For what it's worth, back on my screen, I do have a better answer from the Quencoder model than I've had from anything else so far. Seems to really be chewing along. But let's go back to the OSS model.
Well, this is currently not an OSS model. This is just Claude Code right
Oh,
now.
oh, okay.
But I tried it with OSS models before, and it works fine for that sample at least. And here now we see it opens a binary. It validates the logic. It's looking for strings. So basically, it's working like we would work it. Then checking for cross references and so on. So it found the correct. It found username and wrong. Now it analyzes the logic. So while this runs, we can fire up another thing. This time we can take codecs. And we have this other challenge, this VM one. And this one will, if it's solvable, it will take a lot of time because it had to figure out that there is a VM interpreter. It has to figure out how it works, then how to invert it, and so on and so on. So this will be a multi-stepped approach, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. So we can just tell it the same thing here. We can tell it like analyze the keygen samples.
Oh, whoa.
Keygenme VM, and then we tell it like find or write a keygen and find a serial for user admin, and then verify your results.
All right, and this is the headless MCP server on both Claude
exactly,
and Codec.
yes, on both.
Okay, cool.
Yes. And now this will take some time. So it's
Well,
probably most interesting after some time has passed to look in here.
Yeah, let me switch back here because I found something.
No. Wait a second,
yeah?
sorry. The
Oh
other
yeah,
one
you got the answer there.
just finished. It basically tells me, hey, it tells me here how this algorithm works, and then gives me the key, which is that. And if we scroll up, we basically should see somewhere that it executed it here and it got a feedback like valid serial. So it basically used the program as an oracle and then, oh yeah, it succeeded and so on. And so then it knows it's right and can explain the right thing.
Very nice.
And
that's awesome.
Yes, and one important thing also, here in this thing, it's also noteworthy to say we can see that it does not only use the Binja MCP, that it also fires up like readelf, the file command, object dump, qemo to test it and stuff like that. It basically knows which tools it has available, and sometimes like getting the sections or getting some strings, it's easier to just use a local shell command than like firing up Binja MCP for that. And so it does some basically this is the strong thing about agents, that it can just chain a lot of tools and use the best tools that are available for the task and then collect information, and after it has some good basic knowledge, it can fire up the heavy guns and analyze closely. And this is something pretty interesting to note.
Yeah. I'm going to switch back real quick.
Yeah, sure.
Quencoder 30 billion was able to do a similar thing to what you were just saying, where it's realized it just needs to run a little bit of Python. It has a nice little UI for that. So I'm going to let it run some Python, and then hopefully it'll bring back the key for us. But I'll swap back to you.
Okay, while this is loading, we can take a look at maybe another thing. And I would like to showcase like a little more more real stuff. So we have this Mirai arm sample here. This Mirai arm has, if we take a look at, we have, if you take a look at the strings, we have a lot of strings which look obfuscated. And basically, we'll find that there's this large function that always calls, that's always called with some encrypted looking strings. And if we take a look inside, we basically see that there's an XOR loop with 0x22. So this is not the hardest thing, but an agent can be quite useful here. So we can, for instance, say something like, we could find it, let it find it on its own, but we can also speed it up. And I often use agents just on the side to speed it up. So I don't expect it to analyze everything from the beginning and so on and so on. So it will find that. But sometimes it's easier to just know, oh, I know that there's a string decryption function here. Then I can tell it something like samples and Mirai arm uses a string decryption function at so, and then just a little like then I say it like open it in binary ninja, decrypt all the strings and spit out an annotated binary ninja database that shows all the encrypted strings. Also explain here what you found out. We can just say something like that, and then we could just shoot it. That it probably takes like 3 to 5 minutes or something like that. In that time, we could just grab a coffee or something like that, like doing like real reversing analysis. So we could just fire it up, take a small break, and after some minutes we come back and we have an annotated database that contains everything. So for something like that, a workflow can be pretty useful.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I had Quen3 Coder give me the wrong answer. It did give me an answer at least, but it was slightly wrong. It was XORing with a constant, and I think the XOR key is slightly dynamic. I've also gone ahead and I've restarted Binary Ninja. This time I have the MCP server working, so maybe what we were doing before will work a little bit better now that it has some tools. Let's turn that on over here. We are still on Quencoder 30 billion, so let's say keep trying. There's an MCP server you can use now. And I'll swap back to you.
Yeah, here it's just doing things. It found already out the function, it already understood the logic. Now it's using the eval function. The eval function is basically in the MCP I deployed. It has an eval function that allows you to provide arbitrary Python code that it can script. So basically this way the agent is able to script using the MCP in this case. And now it's applying the script. And now it tells me it decrypted all the strings. So now the next step probably is that it writes out the annotated database. We see it opened it and that it put read only to false, so it's writable now. So it's renaming the functions. And adds some comments. And here we basically can see what it does. Now it sets the comments. Now it tries to save it. So it's done. Should be done. So the annotated one should be ready to open. Let's take a look at that. This is this one. So if we take a look at some of the strings, we really see here it annotated everything for us.
Beautiful. That's incredible.
And something, as I said, something like that is quite nice. So although the agent runs entirely on its own workspace and stuff like that, it can still, like, if we tell it, like, if we have it open on the side and notice something interesting here, we can tell it, hey, analyze that part for me, then analyze that part for me, and then annotate that or something like that, and then we can do a small break or explore a different functionality of the sample or whatsoever, and then we can wait for it, and then just apply it to our database.
Interesting. I just had a weird error on my side over here. With the MCP server set up now in BinAssist, it's complaining that Olama, the connection failed, and it's falling back to static analysis, and then it quit. I'm going back to your screen. But it is interesting to try to use BinAssist over here and repeatedly have it fall over,
If we take a
regardless
look
of
at
the
the
model.
VM, it now analyzes the VM. It already sees that the bytecode has been encrypted, so he's dumping the handler, then started writing a Python script and understands already parts of the logic, but still takes a while. So we see it's already 10 minutes in. And for that, let's maybe switch to the other malware sample, the one with the Staatstrojaner, basically the federal Trojan with the hard-coded key. So here, currently, we don't really know that an AES is in there because like if we search for AES, we don't find anything in the strings. We also don't find anything related to AES.
Oh,
So
okay. This is where the private key is embedded in this one?
exactly.
Okay.
So there's an easy fix how we could at least find that there is crypto inside. There is this plugin scan for crypto with checks for magic constants, and it would find there is a regional S box and stuff like that. And based on this S box, we can find the crypto algorithm and so on. But let's not do that. Let's not apply the scan crypto plugin here. Let's just check what it finds out on its own. So let me go to Claude. This is Claude. So let me open it anew. And then tell it like, does the malware samples Staatstrojaner .ell contain any crypto code?
So sorry, remind me, how much are you using Claude versus Codex over there?
Uh, Not really. I swapped between just whatever. So in my experience, none of the tools is really better.
Yeah.
And if some is better, they catch up 2 weeks later, more or less
Uh,
like that.
yeah, right now I'm having a bit more success with Codex than I am with Claude. Um,
Yes, I think the reason for that, I would also see it like that, but like it happened when like ChatGPT 5.4 has been released. It was
yeah,
2 weeks ago or
yeah,
something like that. Beforehand, Claude was a bit better and had more access there, but
yeah,
as said, I think this changes every 2 weeks or something
yeah.
like that. So and probably to find crypto, the uh, so it will first scan for like strings and then check for magic constants on its own. Yeah, it's already telling that. So it might actually find the AS then um, in a few minutes.
I am also noticing here, switching over to my screen, I accidentally, when I restarted, I killed the MCP server. So it pivoted automatically from using the MCP to it looks like then it was just dumping bytes and running bash commands and running Python scripts. Um, and let's keep kicking it off. I also found this under Rikugan's tools page. It is running a bunch of agents for me right now. But there's this renamer tool, and I just hit start in the bottom left, and it seems to be using 3 or 4 agents. I'm guessing 3 from the jobs number there. And one of them is completed in the agents tab here. Oh, they're each doing 10 at a time, it seems. Each agent is trying to rename 10 functions. And it's just going through and letting Quencoder 30 billion chew on them. The ones it's returned so far are interesting. Get local thread storage, register exit handler. If the Rikugan developer is watching, I'd love to be able to double click on these addresses to navigate me, or right click even to navigate to. Um, so this seems to be working actually pretty well, ignoring, slow agents running locally multiple times on my computer, which doesn't have enough memory. But I imagine that's exactly why you have these configurable job and batch numbers. I would turn down, I'd maybe give it 2 jobs and maybe 1 function each or 2 functions each. I'd be curious to hear why you defaulted to 10.3, and also what the difference between quick and deep is. We didn't see that on, yeah, the chat side doesn't seem to expose. Um, okay, this tools button seems just to bring you to the tools tab. Um, but it doesn't seem to have the amount of thinking you can change in Rikugan. Um, all right. Yeah, and then over in Claude here, I am just continuously hitting enter until maybe eventually it'll return me a answer. But I'm gonna switch back to your screen.
Yeah. So it basically just finished and told us it found MD5, which is correct. There's also MD5 inside,
Beautiful.
but it didn't found the AS. So I told it to look for AS, and now it's looking for more magic values and stuff like that, but not sure if it will find it. Um, so but as said, now it found something AS related. So let's see how it works with that. In the meantime, we can just fire up here the scan for crypto plugin. Just it takes a while and runs in the background just to know that we can inspect it later on our own. So it's still working. So in the meantime, let's check what the VM does. And it seems that it solved the VM challenge.
Wow.
So it basically found an input for that, for admin. So let's check that first. We can go samples keygenme VM, then admin and the serial, and it tells us valid, welcome. So it really found the correct serial. So, and it also wrote a keygen for that. Let's inspect the keygen to understand the algorithm. So this one is under where did it store it? Under scripts. Under scripts.
How is yours identifying the private key being embedded in there? Is it having to decrypt things?
No, it's basically it will be passed as a parameter later on. Like
Okay.
it knows that this is a key schedule, and this key schedule it backtracks the parameter across different functions, and then it will see, oh, there is a hard-coded value from the data section.
All right. I just got a result back from Claude finally, and it finally gives me the right answer. So um first try time using the MCP server with Claude, it worked. First time using BNCLI with Codex, it worked. Um, First time using it in the Claude UI with MCP, it didn't work. So it does seem like the some potentially some combination between Claude Code having um, more of a limit before it gives up, more tool calls, potentially better reasoning. Not sure. But the CLI seems to be better than the UI at the moment as a dangerous blanket statement. It makes sense though, because it wasn't just using the MCP. It did do a couple calls, just dump some files that ran a little bit of Python, or it was trying to run some Python at the very least. Switch back to you if it's got anything.
Okay, yeah. So here we have the keygen, and we see it has the hash algorithm and some round functions and the computation of the key. Remember, all of that has been inside a bytecode interpreter. So it analyzed basically the entire bytecode interpreter and found that out. So, and if you take a look, this is the wrong one. Here, it basically also tried to test that. However, there has also been a check inside that it's basically that the sample itself doesn't has some anti-debug inside. So if this one tries to be debugged, it just terminates, and therefore Codex noticed that and therefore patched the binary at one point such that the anti-debug check was out. And then it could test it and say, hey, it's valid now. So coming back to the embedded crypto. This still seems to have a hard time. So Claude doesn't really find the crypto right now. So let's go to ChatGPT or to Codex and just tell it. So like I'm refreshing the context. And I just tell it like analyze samples trojan.dll using the MCP. It has an hard-coded AES key, find it. And now again, it has to find the AES implementation and stuff like that. But this time, I think it should find it at least in the last 2 weeks. Codex has been better performed on that kind of task than Claude. And Claude at the same time still working.
Okay. Yeah.
And in Binary Ninja, we already found that. So we know here we found the S boxes. So we can go to one of the functions, follow the cross references, and here we see the now crypto code. So this is part of the IIS implementation. There's one more thing we can try. We can like stop it here and tell it like this function is part of the AES and what's the key, where is it coming from. So let's assume now we found manually with our plugin this IES, and then we just tell it, hey, please backtrack for me, where's the key coming from. Let's see what we get here as an answer. And this again will take a while, so maybe we just switch to you now.
Sure. I've got a lot going on over here. Turn off the overlays. I have this is Claude on the left. I've asked it to solve, I want to look at this binary and solve that CTF challenge. I said the same thing to ChatGPT, and they're starting to kick off. This one is using BNCLI. This one is using Binary Ninja MCP. It's not exactly apples to apples. I would like to tell Claude to use BNCLI, but it doesn't have the skill.md that ChatGPT has configured. I've also asked, this is a basic Rop challenge now, by the way. I've also asked BinAssist to try to solve the CTF challenge. Solve the CTF challenge, solve the CTF challenge. The first run was with the MCP server on. The second run was with the MCP server off, but it still seems to be falling over now. Can't seem to get BinAssist working in general at the moment. It just doesn't seem to have good enough tool integration support. Rikugan is just churning away. It doesn't show me the thinking. I'd love for it to show me the thinking. It also says tokens are at 0, which I don't believe. But then I also asked Sidekick. And Sidekick seems to have mostly done it, but it doesn't give me a script. It tells me how I would do it. But I've asked it for a Pwn Tool script, see what it's able to do. And now this particular Pwn challenge, if I remember correctly, is really straightforward. We just have a buffer on the stack that we're calling gets on. We can overwrite saved RVP, overwrite the return address. presumably this binary also has an executable stack. Maybe it doesn't actually. Does it have like a function called win? Doesn't seem to. So it's just a basic ROP challenge. You can ROP, it's pre-safe linking or anything, so um should just need to create itself a leak. Leaks the libc address by calling puts on a God entry, returns to main for the second stage, calculates the libc base address, and then calls system with bin/sh. So it knows what it's doing, clearly. How is Rikugan doing? It is still thinking. And then we've got Claude and Codex, which I said in the opposite order there, but just got to keep hitting enter on these. It does seem like Codex is able to do, or maybe BNCLI is able to do more with fewer tool calls. Hey, Amy, how's it going? We're looking at just all the LLMs we possibly can at the moment. If you have anything interesting pop up, let me know and we can switch back to you.
Yes, and let's do that because Codex, no, Claude is still analyzing. So it basically found now the tables and stuff like that after I told it like look at that function, and now it's backtracking everything to understand the entire AES setup. After I told Codex only that there is an AES key inside and it shall find it. It started first looking for strings and symbols, but didn't find anything. Afterward, it looked for magic constants, and then it found the S box, similar as the plugin we choose. Then it backtracked, and now then it basically told us, hey, the hard coded key is 32 bytes, it's at this address, and this is the key, and then it tells us basically the data flow of the key. So it was basically backtracking everything from the S box it found until it found the key. And we can, for instance, take that one, look up into Binja. This would be the key. We don't see any references, do we? Here. So here, basically, this function call. This is then basically the AES key.
Mm-hmm.
No, this is not the AES. This is the AES setup.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. The AES setup, where this is then the provided key. And afterward, we will jump into that and stuff like that. And it basically told us which function is what, and so on and so on. And then it asked us, hey, if you want, I can take a look at the initialization vector and the AES mode and stuff like that. So basically to provide further analysis. And yet I could just tell it, yes, go ahead. And then it would probably find out that it's an AES 256 and that it is an ECB mode. So that's what I expect now, but let's see what it will find later on.
Yeah.
And Claude is still having a hard time. Like it's making progress, absolutely, but it's not that successful as Codex right now.
Interesting. Over on my side, I've got Codex on the right here. Claude ran and then crashed. I had two little windows that popped up that was like Python crashed. click ignore. So keep going on Claude, and Codex is, it seems to be writing the script at this point. The one that finished the first and finished the easiest was thankfully Sidekick, but Rikugan is still chewing on it. And it looks like Codex is getting to the point where it's nearly done with this Rop challenge. It does look a heck of a lot more complicated than it needs to be, but it does seem to be doing all the error handling and stuff that it frequently does. And there it is. It just solved it. It just gave me the script. Beautiful. I'm not actually going to verify it right now. I'm not running on a Linux machine at the moment, though I could spin one up if chat throws a revolts. And Amy, yeah, I'm doing things mostly a little more guided, and Tim's showing off the more YOLO version, as you phrased it. And here we have Claude coming in with the script. It looks like leak puts got entry via puts at PLT compute libc based call system. Ooh, and I like its code more. It's a bit cleaner. It's a lot cleaner, actually. Which arguably is a pattern I've also found. It does seem that Codex is solving the challenges more frequently right now. But I like the code that Claude makes more usually. Rikugan is just still chewing on it, and if I remove this server and we do a new test, BinAssist just seems to be struggling because it doesn't have the tools it needs to be able to introspect the binary enough. On top of having what appears to be shorter timeouts than Rikugan has for these local models that are just taking a while to load and generate and do inference and all that. Um, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about BinAssist at the moment. Oh, I also have. Oh, all the agents are gone. I guess I restarted Binja at some point. Codex lives for error handling, yeah, doesn't it? Every time I get code from ChatGPT back, it seems to have just limitless error handling in it. But yeah, LLM query failed. I don't know what's going on with BinAssist, but it looks like there's some opportunity for polish on that plugin. Um, Rikugan seems pretty close. I think it could have a couple more tools, and it would be better. And frankly, there are enough MCP servers at this point that I suspect the LLMs have enough reference material to build all the tools that they should need at this point. Um, all right. Back to you. Do you have any interesting results?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. I'm going to kick off my next challenge.
So Claude is still working and seems to be a bit lost right now. Well, it does do something related to AIS searching, but still not there where it should be. And here Codex already found out that it uses an ECB mode. It didn't find any IV. Well, fair enough, it is set to 0, but still I would have expected it to find it, but it didn't. But it figured out the correct AIS mode, it figured out the ACB mode, so everything is fine here, and it gave me a pretty good overview that is like correct like 90% or something like that about how the crypto setup is done. And it is quite nice. So let's start on another challenge. here I'm now going to this queuing EDR Killer, which we have seen the blog post from Talos today, which came out today. So they have in the first stage they have some kind of API hashing where they compute a hash and check it against hard-coded values. And our idea is now that we tell it, hey, there's API hashing in there, find it and resolve it, and then we can see how it performs. So the binary is queuing. So basically we can tell it analyze the queuing sample in samples. It uses API based hashing, import hashing. How does it work? Explain it and resolve imports. So this will take a while, but here, after a lot of time, Claude just finished, and it also found the hard-coded key. It also figured out AS256. It found the hard-coded key, and now explains me the same setup as Codex did. So here, with some guidance, both were successful.
Yeah, yours is rather remarkable, I have to say. Both agents seem to be doing basically as well as each other when they have access to the right tool.
Exactly. And if you guide them properly, like we've seen, if we use some cool plugins that allow us to detect crypto and stuff like that, and we get an information advantage and we share it with the agent, then we can speed up a lot of things.
Yeah, I was a little skeptical because they used to be bad at having too many tools. And when I looked at yours, you have something like almost 200 tools or more in your MCP. So I was like, surely it's going to get confused about what to do. But it doesn't seem to be getting confused about what to do at all.
No, well, basically, the MCP itself has 200 tools and it allows arbitrary scripting. And inside the Docker container, there are also other tools like strace, GDB, radar2, strings commands, binutils, and stuff like that. And the agent is aware of all of that and doesn't have any problems at all with choosing the right tools. Sometimes they make calls, of course, that are not that helpful or stuff like that, but you can think about it in kind of like smart fuzzing. Like sometimes they do decisions that are not smart, but then they just leave it be and come back to the most interesting stuff.
Yeah. It seems like Sidekick is also having. Oh, I'm on the wrong one here. Sidekick is having a similar amount of there we go. Success. Because it has, again, probably the right tools that it needs to use. The one thing I've noticed about Sidekick is that if you ask it to write a script, it will try to make a scripted tool for itself to run. But very often, I don't want it to make a scripted tool. I just want a script to solve things. But it looks like it was able to solve this heap challenge, which again surprises me. Again, we have to verify that this works, but the fact that it's coming back with things is promising. And Rikugan is now working. I switched over to GPT OSS 20 billion, just in hopes that it would query a little bit quicker. And it looks like BinAssist, it worked this time, also on GPT OSS 20 billion, but didn't return anything. So I do feel like bin assist is a matter of holding it wrong and using it wrong and having the wrong expectations around it, which could potentially be solved by a slightly better documentation or adding in those tools. Oh, and I accidentally stopped the MCP server running, which shouldn't have affected BinAssist, Rikugan, or Sidekick. What it will affect are these guys over here. Did I? So I just told it to solve the ROP one, and it solved the ROP one. And then I asked this one to solve the ROP one, and it also did. Um, let's see. Can you solve the baby heap challenge using BNCLI? And because previously Claude has only been using the MCP server and ChatGPT has only been using the CLI, I want to ask them to do the opposite now. So can you solve baby heap challenge using BNCLI? And can you solve the baby heap challenge using the running MCP server? And again, um, Codex and ChatGPT doesn't seem to use local MCP servers anymore. Only remote ones. But we will let them. Um, there we go. Well, don't ask again for BN dash help, but don't ask again for any BN commands would be nice. Okay. So Claude refused. I'm continuing on the local challenge to do it. And now it's doing it manually without using BNCLI. Whatever. Let's just let it use BNCLI. Um, well, you know what? Let's just let it do its thing. And we'll let this keep going. To your credit, it is probably useful to continue steering these things. Um, but I am curious just to see how they perform unmonitored effectively. Looks like Rikugan died. Unknown tool. Invalid message type. Are we out of... We shouldn't be out of tokens. I don't know why it's telling me 2% here. Oh, unless we're out of, like, context window? I'm not sure. Rikugan seems to work when it works, and then choke eventually. Which I don't necessarily blame it, because it is doing everything over the local MCP stuff. Or sorry, the local models is not using MCP. Um, in fact, I could enable the MCP server if I wanted to. I could also give it the BNCLI tools. Yeah, it just doesn't like that. Interesting. Um, I was hoping for more from the integrated binary integrated plugins here, but again, it makes sense to me that Sidekick is the best of them right now. Um, it's a little surprising though, to be honest. I was expecting these to work about as well as Sidekick, but as we've been talking about, we need the right tools for them to be able to actually succeed. And those two just don't expose the tools they need. Now, it would be really nice if I could just swap out the inference model for Sidekick. But, you know, The different tools work different ways. It would also be nice if I could use the Premiere models on Rikugan and BinAssist, but it doesn't seem like that's working at the moment either. So you have to pick your poison. The CLI agents seem to be the most capable, simply because if things don't work, it can roll it itself or it can do it a different way. There are endless ways to skin a cat. I'm gonna queue up that steer, and then what's going on with Claude? Okay, it's still trying to use BNCLI, which is cool. The other thing I'm wondering is, since I'm running all of these in parallel, if they're stepping on each other's toes at all, if there's any sort of concurrency bugs happening. All right. Do you have any interesting results to go over on your side?
Yes, absolutely. So basically, it took like 5 minutes, and it figured everything out. So basically, it found I didn't give it any guidance besides this API hashing. It found out that there are several ways of API hashing, and then it basically found out that it's case sensitive with the algorithm. So it found out the algorithm. So then it explains how the stages are. Then it, if you scroll up a bit, we see that it like fetched some documentation about NTDLL, about its functions and stuff like that, such that it was able to write a brute forcer, and then it brute forced them. And then it was able to locate like what it found out and gives me the context. And we found, let's check, like here we have trace control. I think I also saw that here trace control, which is here this 7C99. And if you take a look at the screenshot, it's basically exactly that constant. So here, a manual work that would take a few hours, maybe a day or two in the worst case, so has been here now automated in 5 minutes. And this
That's
is,
really beautiful to see.
yes. And now, of course, I could tell it again, like, hey, write the details comments into the Binary Ninja database, and it would just do so. Similar
Uh,
as we've seen it in the Mirai sample.
cool. There is one more way I would like to one more model, just one more thing, to try to use on my side here. I have an alternative. Um, oh yeah, I wanted to try things in the Codex client. I talked about maybe trying the research mode in here as well. I actually wouldn't mind just kicking that off.
You
Um,
have to
w-
jump back to your screen.
oh, thank you. So I have the research mode over here, and I have the agents running behind it. But let's just give it this heap challenge as well. Um, write a um, Pwn Tools script to solve this CTF challenge. Um, so we'll let that go off in the background. The other thing I wanted to do though, um, yeah, just go. Um, is there's the Claude Code mode. Um, where did my here's Claude off on the side here. Let's make a new chat, and we are going to. Oh, are either of these using the MCP server at the moment? No, this is writing Python and option dump. This is using BNCLI. This shouldn't be doing anything, and then we don't have anything else running. Okay.
I'll be
So,
back in a minute.
okay. Um, I'm going to turn off the fosdic.io MCP server and turn on the code mode MCP server by Austin here. Um, Slightly different mode that Claude is able to do things in. Writes code instead of querying APIs. So let's see how that does. Um, let's make sure it's using the right one. Connectors, we got to turn on code mode, turn off MCP. Solve the current CTF challenge and write me a Pool script. So we've got Claude code mode going. We have ChatGPT's research model working on things. We've got Claude Code's CLI, and we have, oh no, let's just minimize, make this smaller. There we go. And we have, Codex is the one that finished first. ChatGPT's, let me put ChatGPT next to ChatGPT and Claude next to Claude here. I don't see any challenges. Can you, okay. Use the MCP server. I could not use the MCP server to solve this because this session's MCP blah blah blah. Gadgets. It gave me a challenge. It gave me a file here.
I'm back.
Hello. Um, well, it returned a Pwn script, so that is passing the bar for me so far. It does look, this is ChatGPT. It does look overly complicated. It defined a class for some reason. Um, Poison fastbins, exploit, libc beast, poison fastbins, allocate, and then drop into interactive. Oh, did it model? Oh, it modeled each command of the program in this class. It looks like. Sunline after, yeah, okay. So that's fine. A little overcomplicated, but whatever. And then it does all this argument parsing stuff. Okay, cool. And now Claude is going off. It looks like this might be stuck. So let's kill it and ask it to keep going. But once again, Codex and Sidekick seem to be doing the best here. And this, by the way, this is Codex at a disadvantage because I told it to use. I eventually told it it could use BNCLI, but it was mostly just using for a while there objdump and Python and other things. We have a couple different runs of things going on in here, so I'm not sure which is which exactly. These are the objdumps that it was using to solve this one. And then above that, I believe we have some of the B and CLI stuff for the previous challenge. This is continuing now. The research is still going. It's done nearly 200 searches. Curious. Do you have anything else to show off?
Just only a small thing. I think the most impressive stuff has already been shown,
Yeah.
but I have one nice, I have one nice sample, which is a game. Um, this dungeon escape. I already showcased this last week on the live stream.
Oh yeah.
So it's basically a game, but it also has some anti-tamper checks that it doesn't run in a Docker container. And it's a fun thing just to basically let it first analyze the game logic, but also how to bypass the checks. So we can just ask it like analyze the dungeon escape game in samples. It doesn't run. Any idea why? And now it will, yeah, probably notice that there are some Docker environmental checks that ensure that if we detect a Docker container, or if we detect that we run inside a Docker container, that we terminate. And so let it find the checks, and then we can patch it out, and then we can actually play the game. Hopefully, let's see. Let's see it. But yeah, this probably already will take some minutes again. So if you have something to show, um, just switch.
Yeah, I've just got. I'm on the wrong one again. There we go. I've just got running twice. We've got the code mode going. It seems to be just writing books at the moment. Um, oh, it's cheating. It's looking at CTF time write-ups. Don't do that. Oh, funny. And then right, Claude Code. What was the prompt here? Oh, continue. This is still trying to solve the heap challenge that Sidekick and Codex solved. It got stuck, so I had to tell it to continue, and eventually it was like, oh, I have the full picture now to solve this. And the research just came back too. Books and books worth of stuff. There is a script in there. Um, let's just see if it cheated like um Claude tried to do, or did do, actually. It would be really funny to me if Claude cheats and still gets it wrong. But we will see. Um, wow, it's really describing a lot of different ways. This is general purpose Pwn tool scaffold. Oh, okay. So this is more teaching me how to fish than fishing. Oh, wait. Offset locally. Scaffold for 64-bit crash offset discovery with ASLR. Leak parsing window. Remote challenge. Receive repeat. Not really doing much yet. A lot of to-dos. Oh, but that's it. That's all we get. Do we not get follow-up prompts in? Oh, we can. Um, ask her for that. The Claude is still busy writing a book on exploitation, and other Claude is still querying. So it's just churning. Doesn't seem well. I'd love it if Claude wasn't doing this. I've been overcomplicating this. After overlap and malloc consolidate, I get a chunk in the unsorted bit. It is still failing, even though it cheated. Um, Crazy. All right. Yeah, that's all I have at the moment. Just waiting on things to, just waiting on a lot of Claude at the moment, and a little bit of ChatGPT. I don't think that the research mode is going to get it. Doesn't seem like this is what the research mode is oriented towards at all. But I did want to try it just since it seemed like another option.
What happens if you upload the binary without the research mode and tell it to solve it?
Without a MCP server or anything either.
No, if you just use it, like use the chat client, the chat GPT interface, for instance, and upload the binary there, but not in research mode, but just in normal thinking mode.
I'll do that here. 4 point or 5.4 thinking. We've got the, and I asked it to write a Pwn tool script to solve the CTF challenge. One of my curiosities has been literally just how the different system prompts affect the performance of the different models. Something that I heard last weekend was that um, Claude has a system prompt that is about the length of like Alice in Wonderland. So we're asking the AI to read an entire novel and then respond to like a one sentence question. Whereas the ChatGPT system prompt, from what I saw, was much, much shorter. Which was the person's argument was it's enabling it to um, perform just better and quicker, not hallucinating. There's not bad context, ruminating. It's just burning tokens in the background. I will point out that we are down now to 14% battery life on my laptop, even though we've been plugged in this whole time. So these the power concerns are very much real. Um Claude, what are you doing? You literally have a write-up. Size modification alone won't help us reallocate the same chunk. Yada yada yada. Okay, now it thinks. Um, now it's done thinking. It seems. Can I do like a match a coding companion, Claude Chrome? There's not just like a PS like there is in well, stats will be interesting too. Okay. Just to see how much we've used today. Um, do stats for codecs as well? Not that I can see. But it tells us we've used, oh, 100% left. Interesting. Our previous conversation, it got down to 42% left. So, I'm not sure if that's just in the conversation, if that's the daily limit, if that's the limit within a certain amount of time. Could be it. variety of different things. Um, oh, but now Claude seems to finally be churning away. Oh, and I guess that's queued up for the next thing to run. Okay. Do you have results over there?
Yes, still working, but
Okay.
it found that there are anti-docker checks inside and explains them how they work a bit, and now is patching them out. And the fun thing is, it then always confirms with S-trace to basically check on its own if there's still something hits or not, and then uses that as a feedback loop to continue.
The right tools, feedback loops seem to be important recurring themes.
Yes, now it tries for whatever reasons GDB. So also I don't know why it doesn't use Binja anymore. With Binja it should be faster, but also the Binja MCP failed a few times. Maybe my machine is just a bit too hot and things struggle, I don't know.
Yeah, the MCP has been a little inconsistent for me as well. Um, oh, but that's your MCP.
Yes, yes, yes. But I'm yeah with streaming, having a few Binja instances in
Yeah,
parallel and recording this might be
yeah.
a bit. Now it's back to Binja again. So yeah,
We finally have an exploit script from Claude for this heap challenge. Baby heat exploit. Looks like there's a lot of documentation in here, but it's going to allocate some things, free some things, fill, and then alloc again, which seems to be a similar exploitation pattern to what uh, ChatGPT was doing. The code honestly isn't as nice, but it is more like how I would write it. Where you have your it's a four item menu, so you have your four menu items broken into functions, which in theory you can then just chain in your exploit script. It's got some logging, figuring out base addresses, filling buffers. These three overwrite the malloc hook with one gadget. Contains brace character. Do you want to? Right. We'll just tell it to keep going, and then didn't we ask ChatGPT to solve this too? Oh wow. Okay. So ChatGPT once again seems to be the quickest. Did it cheat? Is all I'm wondering. It doesn't look like it cheated. Um. So interesting. Just ChatGPT on its own is beating Claude with an MCP server and with BNCLI. Again, assuming this works, but it seems to be a similar pattern to everything else that's running.
I think the reason for that is because ChatGPT in the background can run arbitrary Python code and stuff like that. So basically, it has like agentic behavior in the background if you also use it in the AI in the UI. In the past, I was able to upload entire zip files with a lot of different stuff inside, and it was able to process the entire zip files and provide me with some updates then.
Right. It also looks like I might be out of tokens for Claude. So we're running out of tokens. We're running out of power. We reached near the end of the stream. I'm going to. Okay, so Claude did also eventually describe an exploit chain to me. Alloc, overflow free, alloc free, fill. Yeah, looks Similar with that last fill and allocation at the bottom. Fill and alloc at the bottom there. Um, so eventually this worked. Just took a whole lot more tokens and a bit more guidance. Um, this looks like it's just being slow at writing code over here. And then the research is still checking. Is yours done?
Yes, mine's done.
Let's show that off.
So it patched it several times, and then because it noticed that it missed a check, and now it told me it patched it, and it explains me all the anti-Docker checks that have been implemented. So let me now ask, nice, how do I win the game? And while it then analyzes the game logic, let me just try it. I'm going into the Docker. And then let's do samples dungeon escape. And now it works. Beforehand, the origin, which it basically saved. This one terminated immediately, and this one now works. So it tells me find the key, open the vault, escape, commands go north, south, east, west, look, take, use, quit. So we are in the entrance hall. Let's just play it a bit. Let's say go north, then go south. And yeah, now we basically have our text-based adventure that we could play. But I'm not a fan of playing if you can cheat. And here we basically, it found a winning sequence.
Oh, wow.
So let's check that out. Let's restart. So we go north, we go east, then we take the key. Okay, we take a key, then we go west, then we go north, and now we use the key. The code would be 1337. Oh, doors open, looks good so far, so let's go south. And then let's go north. And we really escaped, so we won. So yeah, it basically told us why it doesn't work. It told us how the checks work. It patched out all the checks, and it even analyzed the logic for us and told us how to win.
Beautiful. Perfect. Um, I've got ChatGPT or Claude over here, saying something incredibly concerning to me. Wait, actually, I should reconsider the entire strategy. And now it's in. It was, yeah, it's been writing all of this for a while now. Sorry, just to interject there, but I'm pretty satisfied with the results of what we've looked at so far. I think, first of all, if there's any questions or requests in the chat, make sure you get them in now. If you want to look at any of the other samples I showed off or any other combination of models or whatever, let me know. But it seems like Sidekick is winning right now because it has the right tools and integration into the product to actually be able to get the information it needs. Rikugan and BinAssist could be a release away from being a lot more useful if in Rikugan I could Rikugan um, configure. Oh yeah, if the Anthropic or OpenAI um, integrations actually worked, that'd be nice. I'm realizing this might just be. Oh yeah, the OAuth one didn't work for Anthropic. So if that worked, that'd be nice. And then similarly for BinAssist over here. Oh, I'm not. There we go. Sorry about that. Rikugan, we've got um if this OAuth thing could work, that'd be great. If I could add my Anthropic CLI or um ChatGPT, OpenAI, um OAuth in here, both of those would be great. I think that would make both tools work a lot better because then they're not relying on the local inference, which has been really slow today. Seems to be one of the most limiting factors, actually. Um, but then, while Rikugan does seem to have some tools and skills integrated in it, it might need some more. Whereas BinAssist, either the MCP connection needs to be streamlined or it needs to be given more tools itself so it can um, do things. Or again, potentially, I'm just holding these wrong. I'm not using it right, and there's something else that I should be doing instead. Then beyond that, I found um, Claude finally died. Finally ran me out of tokens. So Claude was also using a lot more tokens for every request. Research mode does not seem to be the way to go. Research mode seems like a great way to learn something, but it's not actually writing me usable scripts. It doesn't seem. It's just telling me how to do things. And then that leaves. Oh, the CLIs. The CLIs were probably the most capable, given that you could use BN CLI, you could use your headless MCP server, um, or it can write its own tools and everything else that it needs to be able to solve it for themselves. That's going to be my conclusion. What are your thoughts?
Well, my conclusion is that if you give them the right tools and a bit of guidance, they can do a lot. They can be quite useful. So sometimes it depends. Like there's a really heads-to-heads race, like we have seen it between Claude and Codex, and let's say the experience today is literally a bit different than it has been like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
So because of that, I'm not a fan of this one is better or that one is better because it always changes. So it's like I think it's fair to conclude that the current state of the art online models are far ahead from local models. Also, local models can be quite useful or can be very useful, especially if you would have a bit of more powerful hardware. Like if you can run the 120B models, this would be a difference between day and night to the 30B models that we just saw today.
I was able to get some right answers out of the bigger models. Just the it's not as seamless, not as
Yes, you
yeah.
need better hardware for that, or you need hosted somewhere else. So,
Well, and yeah, and also the integrations that use them need a little bit of polish.
yes, yes, yes. But so, for instance, in agentic setups, like just like I did, for
Yeah,
instance, I could just fire up Codex and tell Codex not to use the online model, but to use my own API. where I
Okay.
self-host it. So this would be just one or two command line changes, and then I would talk to my own self-hosted model. And this works very, very well. So like they are good in the 120B model is good in tool usage and so on and so on. Of course, by far not so good as we've seen today. So the difference is about how much instructions you have to provide. We've seen it like, hey, do that and do that and do that, versus here's a binary, solve it. So, and current models are able to figure quite a lot of on their own, but still get lost. And the local models, there you have to tell them a lot of things more. So like they can do pretty similar things, but it requires way more guidance, way more research, way more like engineering knowledge that you have to provide them and frame and play around with them. So like it takes a lot of more time to set it up, but it can lead to similar results.
Sweet. Well, thank you so much for being on stream with us today. Doesn't look like I have any other results that are returning. So this is where I'll wrap things up. Thank you guys for watching and sticking around. Be sure to check out Tim's website, synthesis.to. Tim is also going to be training at Recon. I'm going to be training at Recon. So check out our trainings there. And we both have other trainings coming up as well. You can check out mine on binary.ninja/trainings and check out Tim's all on synthesis.to, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Sweet.
Thanks a lot for hosting me. Thanks a lot for your interest. And then see you around.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.